Hi everyone! It's been a little while since I've done a full update. I've done a couple shorts, but I haven't really been able to get I haven't had time to do a lot of updates because things have been really crazy. Um, One, postpartum hair, I just want to say, is ridiculous. Like, what is happening? These weird little like bang horn things. Oh my gosh, I'm just waiting for them to fall out now, and all these weird like wisps and just I don't know. It's the mom bun, and what do you look like with your mom bun out? Like it's awful. Uh, but I just wanted to give an update. Things are going better in some ways. We've had some rough couple days, but I have officially gotten up to the hotel. So I'm no longer 2 hours away from our baby. So that's really helpful. And I'm about 10, 15 minutes depending on traffic. It's paid for 2 weeks. I got here yesterday. It was a very long day to get up here and get checked in and situated. And it's one of those extended stays. So, you have your mini, not a mini fridge, like a real fridge and like a little stovetop. And so my mom brought me up here and stayed with me the first night because my husband, again, is with our little two toddlers at our house. So, we went to the grocery store. We got some groceries. We got some food, dish stuff, like tool to wash dishes and soap. The hotel had some nice amenities. They have like a toaster in the room. You can get like I can't think of the word, a drying rack, colander, those types of things. Then got all situated, went and saw our baby yesterday. That was good. We got to snuggle for a little bit. And I was able to go back today, and we did a longer hold, which was nice. It's been such a long couple days. I did come back to the hotel early today just to try to rest and recover because I have been going probably too hard to be only about 3 weeks postpartum. My bleeding definitely increased. No concerns regarding like needing to go get checked or anything from what the OB and I talked about, but just enough to be like, you're probably moving too much too soon. I mean, the placenta being removed from the uterine wall leaves basically just a big open wound in your body. So you have this at a full term. I think they want to say it's like a dinner plate size, if I remember right. I could be a little bit wrong, but that is something to think about. I was 27 weeks and 6 days, so it was obviously smaller, but you can only imagine, like I don't have my other hand because I'm holding it with my phone, but like a big wound on the inside of you, and you start moving around and all of a sudden you're going to bleed more. So very grateful for the hotel, very grateful for the social worker, very grateful to be here and be closer. It's very hard to be away from my husband and our two girls, of course. It's not fun. I am just so grateful that he is there and is able to take care of them and keep them on their routine. So that's positive. I've gone to 2 more of the NICU, one's a NICU parent and one's a NICU mom support group online, and those have been pretty helpful. They're nice just to talk to other people who know what you're going through. The NICU is a sucky club you never wanted to be a part of, I think is a good way to put it. So it's been nice to just get to talk about things that people can relate to in a way that you don't really have to explain it. It's like having a weird trauma bond, honestly. Not something you want to have, but it's nice to just be able to say things like, and not have to explain it. Like I talk about postpartum rage in those groups a lot, and I'm just mad, and doesn't mean I'm mad all the time, but like in the NICU, you get mad. You're mad that you're there. You're mad that you can't just have full control over what you want to do with your baby. You're mad that your body didn't do its job. You're mad that this all happened. You're mad that maybe you thought like, I wish this baby would just come sooner. You're mad that you complained about your pregnancy symptoms. I mean, you're just mad about everything. And it doesn't mean you're mad all the time. Again, it can be mad, sad, angry, a mix of grieving, like grieving the loss of a pregnancy experience, especially since I went through this with my first 2. I definitely had that struggle. Like, I was so excited for this third trimester and I wanted to do a maternity shoot, and we were also going to get married before she was born. That didn't happen. We were going to have a home water birth. Like, we had this plan and it didn't go anywhere near that. And that loss is not, I think, looked at enough as a grief and from like a societal perspective, but it totally is. And you totally can go through the grief process like you would if you lost anything. Again, I think I've shared before, I'm a mental health therapist. People go through the grief cycle so many times in their lives, unrelated to death and other losses. Unrelated to death of family members and friends and like losses like that. People go through grief when they get when like illnesses, like cancer patients can go through a lot of grief cycles, even when they survive and they become cancer free or in remission. Like, we go through it with a lot of things. People, when they lose their jobs, can do it. Or if you move, you still might go through a grief cycle. So it is way more common than I think most of us realize. But it is just, it's just a lot. So it's nice to get to process with other people who kind of get it. Guilt is another big aspect of the NICU that just sucks. You just feel guilty all the time. Like, you're the cause of this, even if you didn't do anything, even if your pregnancy was fine and healthy. Our first was fine and healthy. I was high risk based on our first, and I did all this follow-ups with our second. Our second was a VBAC, and she made it to 38 weeks, so full term. I did all the high risk pre-checkups with this one, and I was fine. I mean, in the sense of they were like, well, you're measuring normal. We had extra ultrasounds. He looked great. Still happened. So it just kind of sucks that these are things that you can't control, which is what sends anxiety, which obviously can lead into postpartum anxiety issues and depression and whatnot. Anxiety and depression definitely love to feed on each other, but anxiety and control go hand in hand. Like, we have anxiety over trying to control things we have literally zero control over. So that's fun. Well, an update on the kiddo will be easier to give now since he's doing better today, but I called the NICU Sunday, so today's Tuesday, and he was not doing good. He had what they call an event. It's they basically stop breathing on their own. Babies, especially NICU babies, can't really breathe on their own well. They go through a lot of ups and downs, like when anyone's hooked up to like a pulse ox and everything else you'd be hooked up to in the hospital. You're not just like steady, right? You're going up and down a little bit. That's why the lines on the machines do that. But he drops enough in his stats and it beeps, and it's the horrible, I call it the red beep because it literally flashes red on their machine and it alerts their nurse. And it's probably the one thing that I have the most PTSD from our daughter. And so now that he's having them, it's just super shocking and re-traumatizing. So we had an event, so he stopped breathing, and he doesn't pick up on his own soon enough. So they will, they call it stim, so they'll give him some stimulation. They'll rub their sternum. They may play with their hands or feet. They may sit them up. They may increase oxygen if they're still on any respiratory support. So he had a big event on Sunday morning. He also threw up all of his food that he had just had. So they noticed his stomach was really distended, and so they did some x-rays, and he had gas in his bowels and his stomach. And so that's a big concern because they can get necrosis in their bowels with gas, and that's a terrible thing, and that's something that's really awful, and you don't want to have happen because it's very serious. So they put him on what they call bowel rest and NPO. So they stopped feeding him for Sunday after his 8 o'clock feed. So he didn't eat Sunday, and he got put on IV fluids with the sugar water in there, and they redid his excuse me, I thought I was gonna sneeze. They redid his x-rays that night and the next morning, and he still had a lot of gas in his bowels and his stomach. So they were still worried about an infection, which they ruled out with blood work, a perforation, which they didn't see on the x-ray, and no other signs of anything that would lead to that conclusion. And then I think it's called pneumatosis, which can lead to necrosis. So basically the death of the bowels. So they left him NPO, no feeds, for all of yesterday, Monday, which is a long time for somebody who weighs 2 pounds and like 6 ounces, maybe 7 ounces now. Like, that's, what do you mean you're not going to feed my child for 2 days? Like, that's so stressful. So I got there this morning right as they were rounding on, and this they go through and they round on everybody. So they were rounding on Colton, and he had another x-ray this morning, and it still had gas in his belly, but the bowels looked better. There was some gas in there, but not anything that would lead them to expect the pneumatosis or necrosis. So they started trial feeding him today. So they fed him at the half amount of the feeds that he should be on. So his full feed should be 28 milliliters, which still is super, super small, but he's a super tiny guy. So they did 14 mils for feeding, and they call it +4. So the fortification, which is adding them in extra calories. So they fortified it with +4, which is about half the fortification that they normally do also. The dietitian did not want him to not have any fortification because that's sometimes what they'll do when they trial the feedings again. But she's like, she was worried because he had already gone 2 days without eating that was too long. So he did well while I was there today. He did have one event that needed a lot of stimulation, which was really stressful to watch. It's like being there as the mom you feel like I'm gripping the edge of his, I want to say crib, but it's not a crib, his incubator, his box. And the nurse had to stim him a lot, like had to continuously keep doing it because he would breathe really shallow or stop breathing, and then he would get a good breath and he would go up a little bit and his color would come back in and he'd go back really down, and he'd go up and he'd go down and he'd go up and then he'd go down. And this is probably like a good 2 minutes, which I know doesn't sound like a long time, but when your baby's not breathing right, it's freaking forever. So it was super stressful. I definitely felt like that was also a good sign that I needed to go back to the hotel and rest tonight, because that gave me a lot more anxiety. And again, a lot more like PTSD flashbacks from our daughter, because she had a ton of those early on too. So I know it's normal. And for NICU babies, I know this is part of it, but oh my gosh, it was just super stressful. And I was not ready for it. So overall, he's doing better. He didn't lose weight over those 2 days, which is great. He actually gained, I think, 20 grams, thanks to the fluids. So good job, IV fluids. Hopefully tomorrow he's going to be increased to his regular full feeds again, because he'll have tolerated the feeds for these first 24 hours. So that's his update. And I think my update is just, my goodness, this postpartum stuff is so hard. I'm in a city now 2 hours away from my family and my support system, and I'm so glad I'm close to my baby, but I miss everyone else, and I feel lonely, and I feel also selfish for being in a hotel, and it's just weird. It's just weird, but I'm trying to really focus on healing right now. I'm trying to focus on eating well and just continue to pump. I did dye my hair, I think Saturday it was, because I finally was just really sick of my roots showing. So I did a little self-care and touched up my hair, and this is just a weird postpartum time. But I just want to thank everyone who's been praying for us. The prayers are very much appreciated. I hope that you all have a wonderful night. I'm gonna just hang out now and chill and decompress a little bit and get back to seeing my baby tomorrow, which makes me really excited. I hope you all have a fabulous night, and God bless.